against Governor Josh Shapiro in April, and to the deadly attacks on the Minnesota state lawmakers just last month. Let's be clear. We must stand up together to oppose violence against our nation's leaders all across each party. And I want to thank my co-lead on the resolution, RSC Chairman August Pfluger from Texas. When we talk about this, though, we can have as many resolutions as we want to bring it forward. And I've heard person after person, politician after politician get up and say, I am absolutely appalled by the violence that's taking place in this country today. And we've got to stop using that type of language. And with 24 hours, they're out talking again about who should not be sitting in certain offices. So it's one thing to have a resolution. It's one thing to be resolved the fact we're not going to keep talking like this. When I'm asking all our everybody that's in the Congress, everybody that's in elected office, please watch what you say. Don't start off saying we should never do this, and then within 24 hours go out and make statements again that incite people. That's a false lead. It's a false premise. Our resolution is an attempt to get people to speak the way they should speak. In America, the way we settle things is by votes. So it's my pleasure to be with all these people behind me today because they're all feeling the same way. And I'm going to introduce Dan Muser now. Dan and I sat beside each other in Butler July 13th last year and watched as the assassination attempt took place. I got to tell you, at first, nobody knew what was happening. It sounded like somebody was shooting off firecrackers. And then when we saw the president go down, we knew exactly what happened. We did not know that Corey Compatore had been seriously wounded and was going to die. We did not know that two other gentlemen were seriously wounded and are still recovering from those wounds. But today we are making an effort to make sure that we start speaking the right way in America. Mr. Muser.
Well said, Representative Mike Kelly, my good friend from Pennsylvania. As he stated, I was at Butler on the July 13th, and we were there in October when our president insisted on going back. He asked me, what do you think about me going back? And I said, Mr. President, I advise against it. I was not supportive. I was more concerned about his safety. But his level of courage is, well, boundless. When the president was hit on July 13th, and we all couldn't help but really think the worst. But that certainly changed, as we all saw. At the moment, he lifted up security agents on his back, put his fist up, said, fight, 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 wiping blood from his face. And in so doing, he lifted everybody in that arena up, at the rally up. They began the chant of USA, USA. And I think he rose the entire nation up. And I think we saw that on the following November 5th. But the rhetoric in politics is out of control, right? I recently met with the members of the Indivisible group up in my district, insisting I show up. Well, we had an hour meeting. I let it go to an hour and 40 minutes. But right at the very end, they said, one of them said, you know, you're a Nazi, and so is President Trump. Okay? Nazi, all right? We know what the Nazis did. When people are out there making such comments and elected officials, you know, some people believe them. They actually think that you might be that, and that hate speak turns into violence. Just this weekend, Vice President J.D. Vance and his family are at Disney World, cursed at, all kinds of foul language thrown at them. And Governor Newsom has to put something out saying, did you enjoy your time at Disney World? Okay? Governor Newsom is sick to do something like that and to act that way. And how about the ICE agents being demonized and attacked for doing their jobs? And elected officials are out there cheering it on. So there are too many Democrats, frankly, that are tolerating this, in fact, encouraging it. Not all by any means. My friends that are Democrats condemn it as well. But there's too many falsehoods. And we got a governor in Pennsylvania that does nothing but spew falsehoods. And again, people believe him, how certain measures are being taken that we're taking food out of hungry Pennsylvanians' mouths. Nothing could be further from the truth. And Brooke Rollins came up to Pennsylvania and pointed out the truth. So We have this resolution. It's about hate speech because hate speech leads to violence. It's dangerous. We also are seeing a high level of a surge in anti-Semitic rhetoric. I mean, for crying out loud, I put out a post recently on Facebook, something positive about Israel. I literally got hundreds of basically threats and all kinds of other hate messages. So, look, we're not going to stop it all, but this resolution is about calling for an end to hateful rhetoric. It is about a resolution that solemnly making, answering or recognizing the one-year anniversary of the attack on President Donald J. Trump. It honors Corey Comparator, who died shielding his family, and David Dutch and James Comperhaver, who are injured. And it also brings out the governor I just mentioned, Josh Shapiro, and some others that had we had our governor residence attacked. Okay, all of these things need to be condemned, and that's what this resolution is about. And I just applaud my good friend August Pfluger and my great friend Mike Kelly for setting all this up. Thank you very much. Now I have the pleasure of introducing Congresswoman Laurel Lee from the great state of Florida.
Thank you. 1 year ago, our nation witnessed a horrific act of violence, the attempted assassination of President Donald J. Trump. It was an attack on our president, on the families that were gathered there to hear him speak, and on the institutions that hold our democracy together. As a member of the bipartisan task force on the assassination attempt, I joined my colleagues to ask the hard questions. How did this happen, and what can we do to make sure that it never happens again? Our final report laid out clear recommendations, and since then, Congress has acted, improving threat detection systems, strengthening agency coordination, and expanding protections for officials. The Secret Service has also responded by updating its threat modeling and improving interagency protocols. But important questions remain, and so does our responsibility. I want to thank Chairman Kelly and Chairman Pfluger for introducing the resolution. It rightly honors the bravery of those who responded. It remembers Corey Comparator, who gave his life to protect his family, and uplifts the heroism that saved others. But this resolution is more than a remembrance. It is a call to action. Threats and attacks, whether against the president, a judge, a member of Congress, or ICE agents, are unacceptable. And to those who would commit these types of acts of violence, know this: the full force of federal law enforcement will find you, will stop you, and will hold you accountable under law. Political violence has no place in America, and we must do everything in our power together to ensure that it never happens again. It is my pleasure to introduce my friend and colleague from the state of Texas, Representative Brandon Gill.
Thank you, Laurel, and thank you all for being here. It was just a year ago yesterday that President Trump was in a rural Pennsylvania field, bucolic area, beautiful part of this country, when a deranged gunman tried to murder him. At the time, there were thousands of his supporters in the field looking for a message of hope from the president. A message that the forgotten Americans in this country will no longer be forgotten, that the people who have been ravaged by globalism and mass migration and fentanyl will have a champion in Washington. And meanwhile, leftists on the other side of the aisle were slandering that same then presidential candidate, saying that he is a threat to democracy, that he's a wannabe dictator, that he is literally Hitler, in their words. And some people on their side of the aisle take those words at face value, and they tried to assassinate him. Political violence has absolutely no place in this country. But unfortunately, this kind of rhetoric has continued. We hear our colleagues on the other side of the aisle demonizing the brave men and women who serve in ICE and in immigration facilities, saying that what they are doing is similar to the secret police, that they are being compared to the Gestapo. This is rhetoric that is not only deranged and wrong, but it has no place in a functioning democratic system. So we on this side of the aisle, and we hope that others will join us, reject this rhetoric. We reject political violence in all its forms. And we pray for this country and for its leaders and for our president, for their safety and for their well-being. So with that said, thank you all for being here. And I'd like to introduce the great Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene from Georgia.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, and I'm grateful to stand up here with my colleagues. We've all joined together to denounce hate speech, political hate speech that has deadly consequences. A year ago, the world was outraged after they saw President Trump shot at the rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, and we still mourn the life of Corey Compertor and pray for his family as well as the other victims that were shot. However, this is just another type of violence that goes on and on and on, whether it's state legislators in Minnesota, Governor Shapiro in Pennsylvania, or even me being one of the biggest targets of death threats in Congress, as well as my colleagues standing here with me. I'll receive them. This is a very serious situation, and it happens in many ways. It happens in the headlines. It happens in news clips. It happens in social media posts. It happens in campaign literature and emails. And it happens in rhetoric going across the aisle between Republicans and Democrats. There is no place for political violence. And the people that suffer the most are people like Corey Compertor and his family. It's also a major strain on our Capitol Police. And if you talk to Capitol Police, I encourage you, press, to talk to them. They are dealing with a massive amount of death threats for members of Congress, and they have limited resources. We would love to see their resources used here at the Capitol for visitors and safety for everyone. However, they are constantly having to investigate death threats that come for me and other members of Congress. Over the break, I spent time talking with the FBI about someone that delivered a syringe in my mailbox and talked with them about other cases. And there's been multiple people convicted for pleading guilty to planning to kill me. But this goes across the aisle on both ways, and I think I'm really grateful to be standing here with my colleagues that are saying enough of this. And I'd also, I can't go without saying that God saved President Trump's life in Butler, Pennsylvania. God saved him, and he knows it, and he says it frequently all the time, and the American people know it. And we're very grateful for that. So with that, I'd like to introduce my colleague from Georgia, Representative Mike Collins.
Thank you, Congresswoman Greene. And you know, it has been 1 year since they tried to kill our president. And I want to take just a quick moment to focus on what I call consequences and make two quick points. You know, the culture of lawlessness and violence, this didn't just start last year. Y'all, this started under the Obama administration when they decided to illegally investigate conservative groups, when they were out there demonizing Republicans who just simply wanted to follow the Constitution and make our country better. Then you fast forward to the Biden administration, who they put this on steroids and actually allowed the public to take part in this game. Example, Summer of Love, where rioters were out there burning police stations, assaulting officers, taking over our cities, where they were advocating to defund the men and women in blue who protect us. And they didn't just encourage it, y'all.